Zarin Virji, Dr. Zarin Virji, welcome to the Wise Wednesday, our fourth episode that we bring to you once a month, where we showcase authors, their journeys, and the books that they've written. And today we have a very esteemed guest with us who's been an educationist for over 36 years, I think, Zareen.
Yes, I'm feeling very old, Deepa.
And now with the Universal School of Tardeo in Bombay.
Yes.
Zareen, you've been a writer, you've been an educator, you've been passionate about communicating your ideas, and you've always had a message to share. And I think whether it is your poetry or whether it is your short stories, this is your first venture with writing a book in a very unique manner, which I think touches both. I think the for children and for adults. I think this is a book for everyone, Gopal's Gully. And
I'm glad you say that, Deepa, because this is what I also tell people, that it's a book about a child that anyone can read and enjoy.
yeah, it's a book written from the eyes of a child. And for any one of us who wishes to look at what anxieties, what apprehensions, what challenges he goes through, all of us as adults who
Yes, and
caregivers to
also the happy
be
moment.
concerned,
Yes. You know,
isn't it?
I didn't want to.
So, Zareen, you
Yes, go on.
I want to come to the book in a moment, but we will come to the of the past, several decades that shaped you as a thinker, as a communicator, as a empathetic educator, and how you have now come to this point where you're ready to tell Gopal's story. So tell us about the beginnings, Zareen. Were you always interested in writing?
Yes, uh, I guess reading and writing goes together. So I was always interested in reading because there was a reading culture at home. Also because I am a single child and an introvert. So therefore, books were my solace. So once I entered that world, I could imagine and be whatever character, and I didn't have to bother with talking to anyone. So it was a kind of escapism. It was my safe moment or time. Yeah.
How beautiful is that? And you tell us a little bit about your educational journey. And what fascinated me, Zareen, is you also went as late as a few years ago to England to get to for an additional 1 year of going away to study. I mean, who does that? And that's so inspiring. So tell us about that and what inspired you to go and study even further.
Okay. Um, so, of course, as you know, we were in college together, Deepa, at St. Xavier's College. That's where I met you, and that's when I did my English literature. Uh, and I had these fantastic teachers like Nisha Dakuna, Eunice D'Souza. So obviously, they are going to leave their stamp on a student, right?
Absolutely.
So that was there. And then my heart was set on being a journalist. But somewhere along the way, I felt uh, especially India needs good teachers, and we are doing very little in that area. So somehow I then kind of veered off into teaching, and the writing stayed in the background because there was so much work to do. Of course, writing happened as far as related to the teaching, you know. So in that sense, it continued. But there was very little time or mind space to do much creative writing. So when this opportunity, as you say, came rather late in life, and I didn't know anything about the existence of such programs. But I have a dear friend who lives in England, a childhood friend who also studied at Xavier's, Sunita. I don't know if you remember her. So Sunita said, why don't you do a creative writing course? And of course, I shot her down saying, now I'm so old and, it's not for me. And why should I do it? And all those things, how one resists growth.
Yes. Well
But
said.
she persisted and she said, well, why don't you explore? Maybe you can just do the online course. So slowly I began to visit the websites of various universities. And then got hooked onto maybe this is a path I need to go down. And so I started exploring it,
Mhm.
and things fell into place and it happened. And I'm so glad it happened because it also took me out of my comfort zone, you know. And ready to try something, ready to be a student again. Most of the other students were very young, uh, and in our creative writing class, it was mainly students from the UK. Uh, there were just barely two or three of us who were from outside the UK. And so the other thought that also came was, oof, I thought my English is very good, but here I'm against native speakers, and certainly I don't have the same ease that they possess. So that was also a good recognition, I think, a kind of reality check that one has to keep learning and keep growing to really keep up with others.
My God, that must have been, something. Even the decision to say I'm going to take the plunge must not have been easy. So, how long did you toy with this idea of leaving? Because I think you left your work to go.
Yes. So I kind of toyed with the idea for a couple of years
Mhm.
and then went.
And you probably now have many young friends you've stayed in touch with from
Yes,
your
I
course.
do, uh, and feel very grateful for that. And also, some of us have kind of formed a writers' group,
Okay.
where we meet once a month and share our writings and give feedback to each other.
So that sense of community must have been fascinating.
Yeah.
So when all of this was happening, you chose to be an educator. How did the teaching through this your teaching experience shape you as a thinker and to look at the world from the lens of children?
I think that is natural, when you spend the most part of your day with children. You feel very hopeful, very optimistic, your worldview changes. You are kind of not so weighed down by all that is wrong in the world because you just see these enthusiastic faces around you. But yes, also, of course, it helps you to enter their minds and to see what interests them, uh, what are their concerns, um, how they regard adults, and so on.
You then have seen the pandemic and now going back to school. You're seeing a generational uh, shift, I'm sure, in the way children are learning. So the whole concept of how they're seeing the world, how they're engaging with other children also has changed. What is it that they look at, and what is it that they notice? So, what are some of the things that you're seeing, Zareen?
Uh, I think, uh, of course, it's not easy to generalize here because there is a great divide between those who have everything, right? All the devices and the Wi Fi at their beck and call. And there is a large majority of children who do not have these things. So obviously, it would be different for these two groups. Um, so speaking of a school like mine, which is an international school, uh, there I think what has happened is that all the lessons which teachers and parents used to give, that don't spend time on your devices, completely changed, right? And we asked them to log on and do everything, their entertainment, education, everything moved into the virtual world. So I think students have become, in one sense, more independent, self learners. They are also very happy to just spend time with their device and not have much social interaction with others, which is worrying, and which is what we have to now kind of make that shift, that the real thing is to interact with people face to face, and that's how learning needs to come back. Yeah.
So, Zareen, you expressed yourself through poetry most of your life, right? And then you started writing, you wrote short stories, and then a whole novel. So, how did this transition work for you? What were some of the things you started doing differently? How did your working process, thinking process, expression process change?
I don't think it changed. I think it was all there. It was just making time for it. Um, so, poetry is, of course, something that uh, I think everybody is a poet at heart, right? Because when you feel things strongly, whether it is about yourself or the world around you, and if you're able to put it down, then that's poetry, I think. Um, so poetry happens to anyone who's got the courage to try it out. Um, and other things, again, I keep saying that I express myself. Uh, I mean, I feel completely understood when I write. So then, whether it is poetry or it is a short story or it's a novel, which of course is a new thing for me, so I can't say much about it, but it's very thrilling and I'm enjoying it.
A lot of your work milieu is very urban. Your The parents and the children you interact with are of a certain socioeconomic class, being an international school. And the subject of your book is a child who really, in that sense, is from a very different milieu. So tell us about how this came to be. What incident or incidents led to finding Gopal and his Gully?
Yeah. So, um, you know, I used to be at a school in Malad, and every evening I used to drive past this particular locality called Squatters Colony, which was quite, in some ways, it typifies Mumbai in the kind of neighborhood it is, and in some ways quite unique. So I used to see it very closely and wonder about it. Um, And one day I noticed this ladder which was placed against a wall, and this wall separated the railway tracks from the road. And I wondered why there was a ladder there. I mean, what was the purpose of that? So when I peeped through some kind of opening in the wall, I noticed that there were huts uh, alongside the railway tracks, and that people lived there. And that then it sort of came in a flash, that what if there's a child who lives in this hut? You know, what will his world be like? Um, and and what are the adventures he's going to have? So it was never about, oh, let me write something serious, let me give a message. It wasn't like that at all. It was just that I'm thinking of a little boy who's going to be living here, and what is he going to do daily, you know, in this environment. And then Gopal just began to speak to me uh, daily. While I didn't put it down, it remained in my head that I think he would do this, I think he will meet so and so on. You know, it just sort of poured out. And I still feel that one day I'm going to bump into Gopal somewhere, you know. To me, he's very real.
So beautiful. So beautiful. So, what was your writing process? Did you sort of, when you wrote this book, did you do it alongside other work you were doing and carve out time every day, or did you just take time out and write this book like several hours in a day? What was it?
So, uh, yeah, it was a mix of all sorts of things, but it really took me a number of years to finish it.
Uh huh.
Uh,
Which is how
which
much time, Zareen?
oof, I actually started in 2012,
Mm-hmm.
but you can see when it was published. So because it would just, I would write a little and then forget about it for months and then come back to it. And really, I feel the credit for completing the book goes to Shayoni Basu of
Mm-hmm.
Duckbill, because she is the one who, you know, stayed with me. She had read an excerpt and she said, I will publish this book if you finish it. So she just said, come on, Zareen, when are you going to finish it? When are you going to write some more? You know, and that was so beautiful to get this support, uh, totally unexpected. That then eventually I felt I just owe it to her, for her sake, I have to complete it.
Is this the
So
name,
I
Shayani Basu?
really owe her big time.
So, Duckbill is what? An imprint of Penguin?
Yes, yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So, she chanced upon the partial manuscript, or she probably saw you were in the process.
Yes, yes.
And
We met at a writers' retreat in Singapore, uh, and that's where she just told me very simply that I will publish your book, which was really, I think, the best words I ever heard from someone.
so the process that started in 2012, the last dash, so to say, of this marathon was how long? When you were sort of furiously at your desk.
Uh, was about 2 or 3 months, not
Okay.
long. Yeah,
And if you were to write again, Zareen, or maybe maybe you are writing again, or maybe
I
you have
am.
stopped. Okay. So tell us what you're writing now.
I won't say it.
Okay. Lest Sayoni gets on your case again to push you.
No, no. I hope she gets on my case. But No, I think let's keep the mystery alive.
Okay,
But
okay.
again, it's about a kind of invisible child, okay, from a different milieu, uh, and yet a special kind of child. Um, and this certainly, I want to finish it this year. I don't want to take long.
So Zarin Virji, the writer, because they say the first book is not doesn't make a person a writer. It's the second book that makes a person a writer, because it just means that you have gotten on to something and you're going to keep producing. So I'm so grateful for that. So maybe because our audience is wondering what is this, we just probably show them a little 1 minute trailer,
Sure.
guys, just so you'll see what Gopal's Gully is all about. Let me just, um, share this with you. Yeah. Um, can you see this now?
Gopal's just another boy from the streets of Mumbai, but he's got a story to tell. Come, discover the raw rollicking life of Mumbai's small neighborhoods in Gopal's Gully.
I thought that was the cover was also so exciting, so well done, and the trailer. Who's done that?
Yes, the credit goes to Aman Kumar, a student of NID, National Institute of Design.
Amazing work. Zareen, your short story has also been published in an anthology. Yeah, tell us a little bit about this short story and the theme, because is there a kind of thread that runs through your writing? I'm curious.
No, there isn't. This short story is completely unlike this book, and it's really meant only for adults. It's a very humorous kind of take on a middle-aged woman who wants to marry this rich guy and have her honeymoon on a cruise. And then this rich guy decides to take her to Kanha National Park, and she hates it, and she's absolutely terrified of seeing a tiger. Uh, so it's really a humorous take on relationships among older people and so on. It's just a fun story.
Yeah, fun and humor also a part of your thought process. And you talked about words like optimism earlier, and just the hope that children talk about. You've been associated with a lot of activities which are in this whole space of raising awareness. Maybe you want to just tell us a little bit about that.
Right. So uh, I think what really shaped me as a young girl was this movement called Initiatives of Change, which is a global movement of being the change we want to see in the world. So that has been the thread that stays with me through whatever else I'm doing, and that's where I have learned that whatever happens, whatever adversities come in our lives, we try our best to overcome them, uh, and we contribute to the world in the best way and in our own unique ways, and also that we respect every individual, however different they may be from us.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think initiative of change, initiatives for change, right?
Initiatives of change.
Initiatives of change.
Yes,
And it's a
yes,
global movement.
yes, yes.
Beautiful. So, Zareen, we've come to the close of the session. I just want you to tell us what is it that you want the reader to take away. We have a last few minutes left, and how do you want, um, more Gopals to become more visible, let's say?
Yes, I think, uh, you know, I really feel that we in the India shining kind of world sometimes think uh, others don't matter. Those who are only surviving, uh, and we almost forget that there is that part of our country, you know. And I really feel that the day we all begin to be sensitive and care for every single one in this country, then only all of India can progress. So that is my belief and wish, that through this book, not that I intended to have a message, but now that it is written, I would say, yes, can we bring such children to the limelight?
Yeah. Gopal's Gully took a while to write. And how did you had this book come out in 2012 when you first started writing it, as opposed to it coming out now in 2020? In these ensuing 8 years, did the story change because the writer somehow was growing and changing?
Yes, of course. So naturally, when I began, I didn't know where I was going, right? Except that there is a boy in this particular setting. But beyond that, I didn't know what will happen. But as Gopal spoke to me more and more, uh, it became very clear where it's leading and what's going to happen and so on. So if I say any more, I'll give it away. So I would like people to read the book.
The illustrations, does the book have illustrations right through?
No, it doesn't, because it's for children about 10 years of age. So naturally, I mean, well, I would love to have illustrations, but it doesn't.
And Zareen, your poems, they are also published in a book.
Not yet.
So we are
They've been,
waiting for that.
yes, yes, so am I. Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Lovely. And your short stories.
Someday, Deepa, someday.
So already, like Shayoni, I've started putting pressure, as you can see, on Zareen.
Yeah,
She doesn't have one person, but maybe two people. And the readers, all of you who read Gopal Gully and want more,
yes,
who will encourage Zarin Virji to write, and write to make us more sensitive, more conscious, and more aware as a people. And I think not just for the country, but for the world, these stories are universal, whether it's
right.
a child in Mexico, you know, invisible, or a child growing up in
Very
maybe
true.
Bangladesh. So it could be very well a child, and particularly because COVID has caused so much disruption in the lives of children. that maybe it just makes us very sensitive and aware of children around us who might be made more vulnerable because of the circumstances that we live in. So, for all of you watching Wise Wednesday, do take a look at Gopal's Gully and follow Zarin Virji's work. And Zareen, thank you so much for this labor of love and for bringing Gopal to all of us.
Thank you, Deepa. Appreciate you and the Lumiere team.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Yeah. Bye
Thank you.
bye.